Hello, my name's Rob Field. I'm the Director of the University of New England Future Campus at Parramatta. Today we've been working on a new project, and what we're intending to do is to provide some resources for students to develop their enterprising skills. So if a student has an interesting idea, that they see some opportunity that they could convert it into a small enterprise or a small business, we will provide them with some skill sets to enable them to evaluate that idea. It provides an amazing opportunity for these students to work with us to develop their idea and gain some invaluable skills.
An idea can come from anywhere. And I think very often, especially students feel that they need to sit down and brainstorm an idea. But actually, an idea can come in your dream. And an idea can come at 3 a.m. in the morning. It can come from just walking down the streets and looking at a few retail stores and something hits you. Hey, presto, I could do that. So it's really about first getting that idea, after which, as I said, it can come from anywhere: family, friends, yourself, from your dreams. And then really looking at evaluating that idea. Is this worth going ahead with?
For most people, it comes from being in that industry for a few years. So they get to see trials and tribulations of their specific industry, and they understand that things could be done better. And either they're not given the opportunity under an employer to make those things happen better, and I see that all the time, and then all of a sudden they get frustrated to the point where they think, well, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to deliver that point of difference. And then a new business is born, with a good chance at a small market share to begin with, but a business that's otherwise appreciated in the marketplace.
When we talk about business idea, we have to talk about our own niche. Business is just you. At the end of the day, when you develop your business, you'll really get to know that business and you are not, they're inseparable, because business becomes your baby. So once you really get to know yourself, you know that, yes, this is my niche. This is what I really love doing. Nobody has to sort of push me to wake up in the mornings. I worked with Yellow Pages, I worked with IBM, but I wasn't, like, my mind wasn't at peace. My heart wasn't thrilled. For me, it was like a calling.
If somebody wants to go into business but they're not concerned about making money, then really that just falls into the class of a hobby, I think. Business is to make profits. It doesn't mean being greedy, it doesn't mean profiteering, but business needs to be able to employ people. Business needs to be able to be financially sustainable. So without having the right profit margins and the right setup, then a business isn't going to succeed.
The idea has to be a profitable one. It is really about a business idea, about your investors. Is this product or service that I'm going to be marketing or setting up, is it going to be profitable? Is it going to provide proper returns on investment? You have your shareholders, you have your investors, and they need to receive a reasonable profit. So the idea has to have some benefit for the customer. It has to be needs-based. That means the customers must want to buy that product or the service that you're planning.
Got an idea and is going to look for a market, which has probably got a 90% fail rate attached to it, or they've identified a market and they have an idea that addresses the needs of that market. So, in other words, there's a mature industry, for example, turning over $1 billion. They have an idea that impacts that business or those businesses at significant cost of reduction, a better quality product at much quicker turnaround time. So what tangible real benefit does their product bring to an established business?
You USP, unique selling point. You know, you have to identify whether it's going to be your pricing, whether it's your service, whether it's something uniquely different about your product. And without it, it'll be very hard to actually get success in any market. But rather than just having one, you have to know how to actually explain it to people, how to get it out there, you know, how to promote it. Without that, you'll just be another person in an industry.
In terms of the customers and their needs, am I really looking at every single factor? And I want to make it very basic, because when you're looking at business and when you're running a business, you really got to be very practical. Just look at the 4 Ps. For example, pricing. Does this suit my customers? Who are my customers? Where are they based? Is this the right price for them? How am I going to communicate with these guys? No point having a great price, great product, and not being able to communicate with and them not being informed about it. How do I reach them? Where do they buy these products? You've got to go through all those plethora of questions, answer each and every one of them meticulously. Once you feel that they've all ticked the boxes, then I guess next round is really about actually testing and doing a spot of market research.
To analyse the market, have a look who the main competitors are, identify what your unique selling point is, what your unique sales proposition, what makes you different to everybody else in the market, and then really work on, you know, how can you get the industry and the general public or your customers to be aware of what you can do better or differently to what other people are currently doing in the market.
SWOT analysis. Do you have strengths in what you're doing? Being aware of the weaknesses, the opportunities of where your product or service can fit in and make a difference, as opposed to being just a Me Too product.
Probably the most obvious cause is insufficient funding to get their business up and running. Cash flow is generally one of the biggest ones. Also having a clear vision of where the business is going to be in 2 to 3 years' time, exactly what's going to be required to get it there, how much funding. So the clearer the vision, the greater the likelihood of the business being successful. And obviously it's all reflected in the business plan. It's probably the most pivotal aspect of developing a business and starting to commercialise an idea.
Major causes of a small business failure would, at the top of the list, would be expenses versus income, and not measuring that on a regular basis. It's easy to spend too much in the very beginning of a business, and having leased cars and all the perks that people want when they're excited about starting a new business, but then getting ahead of themselves before they've actually earned enough revenue to cover those. That's probably the biggest one. But nowadays, the second and equally biggest factor for failure of businesses is the disruption factor. And technology is a big part of that in many different industries. For instance, Uber versus taxis. Uber has become a threat for the taxi model, and as a result, the government has had to subsidise the taxi industry. But in a way, it's become an opportunity for taxi drivers to also become Uber drivers, or regular people to become Uber drivers and have a new income stream. So disruption, I think, is also equally important to measure and see the disruption ahead of time, so you can make changes to your own business model and not be irrelevant in the future. The market itself that you're in, is the market and your industry under a directional change towards a new product or service delivery. And for instance, in my own industry of IT services, it's changed in just 10-year span towards from traditional IT service model of technicians going out on site and performing services to one of hosting and remote access, in a data center. And now it's moved to one which doesn't involve computer equipment for a client to buy. It involves cloud services and public clouds such as Amazon and Azure and all these services that don't require purchase upfront of capital expenditure for the client, and effectively is a cheaper way of delivering IT services to that same business. So if you don't change along the way, you actually run risk of actually being left behind and being irrelevant, not having a business. I think it's very important that when you're measuring in terms of the expenses of your business versus the revenue, that you have to have a level head and and see those expenses on a regular basis. You have to have reporting as critical part of your culture of looking at your records, because if you don't know when to actually adjust your behaviour and actually bring down those expenses to be more realistic, so that you have a longer period of time that you can run that business, instead of ultimately failing a business within the first year, which is what a lot of businesses do.
Everyone wants to go into business for one thing, to make money. Some people want to go into business because they've got a great idea and they want to help the world, but ultimately if it's not profitable, it's not going to work. So you might have the best product in the world, but if you can't get it to the market for the right price, if you can't promote it, if you can't get sales, then you're not going to have a business.
Passion in the product and service that you're offering. Because without that passion as a business owner, you're not going to be able to get past the failures that you're successively going to have in the first year especially. But beyond passion, cash flow, and having access to funds to actually fund, I would suggest at least the first 3 years of that business operation, because the first year is, again, a hard slog and you'll be met with many failures and setbacks. I think you need a good team of trusted advisors as a critical factor, because without trusted advisors or mentors that you can actually relate back to hard experiences you're having, you won't know if the validation that you get from them is worth continuing, or otherwise knowing when to pull the plug.
Listen to your inner calling, but once you start, you get to know that there's so many competitors out there. Because I only started with one laptop and just, basically a desk.
To grow your idea beyond a home or a garage is the natural evolution of what should be done. You should be trading already. You should have customers that are already giving you a degree of revenue, even if it is on a part-time basis while you're a student. Because that in itself becomes validation that you're onto something, that something's succeeding, that the stars are close to being aligned into getting to your ideal factory, your warehouse, your shop front, your office. And before you take that big step and need a whole lot more funding, you've already got a basis of success to begin with, which is some revenue and transactions under your belt.
When we started 20 years ago, we started extremely small, with just 3 people in a very small office. We always knew that we wanted to grow to become a large, successful company. However, we're also realistic in that we didn't really want to borrow money to do that. We wanted to be able to grow organically and naturally grow. And as we grew, keep investing in the business to keep growing. The lesson, if I knew back then what I know now, you can spend a lot of time just working on your product or your own company, and you can kind of sometimes almost block out the outside world. That's important to do while you're growing, but if I could have done something different, I might have extended myself in the business community, got out and met more people earlier, rather than just waiting until I built what I felt was enough to go outside. Don't be kind of shy to get out and promote your company or services from day one. A business card is definitely important. Basically, will be a bit of paper that people can remember you for once you've met them. So if you can find a way to make your business card slightly unique or creative, it always helps. Sometimes it's an interesting topic starter when you first meet somebody, and that's the impression you're going to leave with them. So it doesn't really cost much to make a nice card. Getting out and meeting other people in the business community, going to different networking events, participating in your local business chamber awards, getting known in the business community is very important. Just focusing on what you're doing and kind of blocking outside the world, and just being all about business is important. But a lot of other opportunities can come from getting out beyond your office. Not talking about marketing. Talking about letting people know who you are personally, not just your product, not just your company, not just your marketing, not just your promotional activities. Personally who you are. What your company stands for, what values you have.